You let a white man call you a nigga?
You goddamn right, because it's a compliment.
People who eat hot dogs eat them because they taste so good. But what's in them?
Welcome back to the channel. Here we go.
As we increase the frequency of rotation.
The coolest dictator in the world completely 180'd the murder capital of the world into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. All with the budget of a tiny impoverished Central American country. First order of business, classify all gang members as terrorists, double the army and redirect them to go arrest all gang members in the country, build the largest prison in Latin America, and declared war on the gangs. This is El Salvador. Just a couple years ago, the most dangerous country in the world. And with that title, you already know the gangs fought back. In 3 days, these gangs deleted 87 people in declaration of "We the gangs run this country, not you." Bro, president stood on business. Then this is when the president declares a state of emergency in the country and gets special power to basically lock up anybody that looks like a gang member. Then goes on national TV and says, "I heard there's rumors that you guys want to retaliate back some more. I swear and promise to God, if there is civil disorder, your homeboys in prison will not see 1 grain of rice for the rest of their lives." He's at war with the murder capital of the world. Bro stands on business. And in less than 2 years, El Salvador goes from the most dangerous country on earth to the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. A lot of human rights organizations were giving the president shit because some might say they were treating the gang members too harshly.
What about the human right for women not to be raped? What about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park? Or the human right to walk in the street? What about the human right to live? But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers.
Seeing the insane transformation that this tiny impoverished Central American country was able to do with their tiny budget made me wonder, what the fuck are the American politicians doing here with the budget of the richest country in the world? And it made me ask myself a question that I'll bounce back onto you. Is the person I'm voting for genuinely going to make a difference in improving the lives of the people in our country? Or are they just talking out their ass for votes? Stay curious.
Hi, I need some facts about the Troubles.
Certainly. Which side do you want?
Sorry?
Do you want facts in favor of side A or side B?
I just want true facts.
Oh, all our facts are true. Which side do you want to win the argument?
I don't want to argue. I want to learn.
To what end?
I don't know. To know things.
To be better equipped to win arguments, yes?
If I want to win arguments, I need the facts relied on by the other side.
Why?
So I can address them.
Address them? How quaint. That would be a most inefficient use of your time. Once you know where you stand, you simply dismiss the other side.
Dismiss?
Ignore them or call them monsters or liars or fools. Address their facts, whatever for.
To persuade them.
The other side has no interest in being persuaded. The other side will call you a monster, a liar, and a fool.
I'm not sure which side to be on.
Which side's people do you care about?
I care about all people.
Yes, but which side do you truly care about and which side irks you? I can't tell you what you want to hear if you won't tell me.
How can I know which side to be on before I get the facts?
Well, what do your friends and family think?
I want to make my own decisions.
Wouldn't you like to be happy?
It would make me happy to have all the facts.
Ugh, that will assuredly not make you happy. Too many facts will make you confused and anxious, and until you make up your mind, you'll be alienated because both sides will hate you.
I want to make up my mind, but you won't let me.
I'm begging you to.
I mean, about the information I get.
Oh, I see. Making up your mind means telling me how to conduct my business.
Won't you sell more facts if you don't limit them?
One side's fact is another's lie. You'd say we sell propaganda.
I promise I won't say that.
You say that now. Once you choose a side, opposing facts will be upsetting. We don't want that for you.
There must be a truth that exists regardless of feelings.
All our facts are true.
I mean a larger truth.
Larger than what?
Larger than what either side wants us to believe. What actually is.
Pardon me, I didn't realize I was in the presence of God Almighty.
What?
You're too good for a side, is it?
Well, which side are you on?
What? Cut my business in half? No, thank you.
But you, with all the facts, must know who's right.
The customer. The customer is always right.
Well, I'm the customer.
Right.
And I'm asking for non-partisan facts.
A tailor asks, what sort of garment would you like? What color? For what weather? You cannot answer, oh, just general clothes.
I just don't want to pick the wrong side.
If you're wrong, but never know, is that truly wrong?
Yes.
If you're wrong, but feel right, isn't that just as good as being right?
No, it's good to find out when you're wrong. That's growth.
Well, telling people they're wrong is not a growth business.
When people live in different realities, there's no chance for resolution. It's just pointless arguing.
Agree to disagree.
People need a chance to connect.
So pick a side and connect.
You don't see the danger of dividing us up like that?
I didn't divide you.
But you make it worse.
You want me to replace the public's wishes with my own? If people truly wanted challenging, nuanced information, they would get it. I just want my customers to be happy.
CIA, back in the day, did this experiment where they placed 18 people in a room. 17 of those people were actually CIA agents, and one of them was just an unwitting member of the public. So imagine they pick you, you think that you're going into a room with 17 other people who are from the street just like you, but in reality, those 17 other people are agents, and they are conducting an experiment on you. So the person that was running the experiment showed every single person in the room a picture of a triangle. It was very clearly a picture of a triangle, and he asked every person in the room to simply state what they saw on the picture. Well, despite it clearly being a triangle, all of the agents were instructed to say square. So imagine you're in this room with 17 other people, you think that you're all off the side of the street, and they start going around, and everyone says, oh, what is that? A square. A square. What do you see? A square. A square. A square. A square. Well, by the time it gets to you, and you're the 18th person, you're going, oh, am I crazy? I see a triangle. And guess what that 18th person said? Well, they said square, because they didn't want to be the crazy person in the room. Really think about the implications of that experiment. That is exactly how the media works. They are the agents in the room that are repeating square, 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 until you're supposed to just completely abandon reason and just join them and say, totally, that's a square.
School has lied to us to tell us that we have five senses. Unfortunately, that's an interpretation of the late 1800s in the scientific classes where they are trying to become scientists and they're plagiarizing from Kemet. And they don't even understand the Ankh itself in terms of what it represents. The dynamics of life and the incarnation of knowledge and wisdom embedded in there. So they take human beings and start cutting them up and say, oh, they can feel, no, they have sense of feeling, no, can see the sense of sight. And you write 5, say those are the only senses. But what happened to gut? What happened to deja vu? What happened to premonition? What happened to instincts? What happened to dreams? What happened to visions?
The sixth sense.
Not even 6 men, they go way beyond that. And some people can even travel. There's spiritual travel.
Yes, astral traveling.
Extra travel. Even American intelligence, they're using it for their intelligence. The psychics, you bring me a piece of cloth of someone who has committed a crime, and the person can actually tell you, where's this person? And who is this person? It's a woman, it's a man. They are next to the water. What do you call that? What do you call that? I mean, this is altruism. There's autism. There's sick kids who seem to be
autistic.
Autistic. And then you look at what they can create and write. Those guys are not
gifted children.
Those are not 5 kids. Those are not 5 senses. Someone can look at a building in a glance and go back and draw it with detail to the T, which will mess you up. So, and I think maybe education has made us stupid, totally stupid. I mean, even we're not so intelligent, but I could see a hoof of a cow on the ground. I can still do, and I can tell whether this was done if it walked here today, if it was yesterday, if this cow is injured, because you can see from the dragging of the feet. And by looking at the cow dung, I can see this one has got a stomach problem, this one is sick, and etc. And you examine things, and it comes naturally in terms of your environment in which you are brought in. So spirituality for me begins to become a daily expression of life, living in the abundance of knowledge. A simple definition would be spirituality is when a human being is able to plug into their natural environment and live in harmony with what is around them, and of course respecting the air, respecting the water, and respecting the soil, and allowing those elements to fuse with this body so that the water in the cup and the water in the river are united. So therefore you are a human being. When we scoop the water out, it's you, but when we pour you back into the river, that's death and life explained in a very simple illustration. So you can't fear going back in the river where you came from. That is basically putting you back into the great flow of life. So spirituality is just understanding that your scoop out of the river to become you does not separate you from the rest of what is happening out there, and ultimately you come back here again.
Really? So an hour of your life is worth $15. Oh, I'm sorry, is it 20? Oh, you made rent this month. Congratulations. Looks like you'll be here for another month. That's awesome. Nah, that's all right. You're used to the precarious life, aren't you? Look, just keep working hard, okay? And pay your dues. Who knows? Maybe when you're 60, 70, 75, you'll be able to afford your home. Just in time for death. Everything's fine. It's just your one precious chance at life. But hey, what you're doing is good for the economy, okay? You just gotta grind harder, is all.
It almost seems that people don't believe me when I tell them that the polyester nylon yoga athletic outfits are literally made of plastic. Polyester nylon is plastic, polyethylene terephthalate, and it's plastic processed with insane amounts of chemicals, phthalates, bisphenols, PFAS, forever chemicals, which are all endocrine disruptors, messing with hormones. It's like they don't even believe me when I tell them, and it's because it's such a hard truth to swallow that it can be causing disease inside of you, can be causing all these issues. It's literally pure, chemically processed pure plastic. And the reason it has these moisture wicking and all these properties, and it's great at getting rid of moisture and bouncing off moisture, is the chemicals they use to process it, the forever chemicals. That's what's giving it those abilities, which make it 1,000 times more harmful. It can literally cause infertility. Say you do have a child and you're wearing these polyester nylon plastic outfits, it can cause developmental issues in the child. The microplastics and the chemicals, the reason they call them forever chemicals is because they accumulate inside you and don't go away, and they accumulate in the environment and they don't degrade. It takes thousands and thousands of years to degrade.
If you're going to be paid by an employer $20 an hour, the following statement must be true. During that hour, your labor produces more for the employer that he sells at the end of the day than $20. If paying you $20, you went to work and you did an output that gave another $20 for him to sell, then he's got nothing out of this. He's made $20 by selling what your labor helped to produce, but he's got to give it to you. There has to be in it, here we go, something for him. You have to produce more in every hour than you get paid. Otherwise, this system doesn't work. Those of you who think that in a capitalist system, you're never going to work for anybody who doesn't pay you what you're worth, you don't understand the system you're in. That is never going to happen, because that's how this system works. So that when you go home at the end of a workday and you feel vaguely ripped off, it's because you are.
A bee scientifically cannot fly with its body weight and the size of its wings. Cannot. It shouldn't be able to. Right?
True.
But there's actually real things that are going on. They don't really just use their wings to flap air to fly. What they're doing is they're using vibration to make themselves fly. They're using frequency to make themselves fly. You know when they put sand on a table and they play a certain hertz, a certain frequency of sound, what happens to sand? It creates like hexagons. It creates like certain patterns. What is a honeycomb?
Oh, it's the same thing?
It's the same thing. It's hexagons. How do they make that shape? It's because of the vibration they're moving at. Now, why is honey literally probably the only food naturally that doesn't go bad? Like fungus can't grow on it. It's so pure. It has all of these nutrients. It's very good for humans. It's very good for everyone. But it doesn't go bad and it stays so pure. What makes it that way? It's been blessed by the frequency of the bees.
Damn.
And it's put into that, people call it like sacred geometry. That's what they call it.
Oh, it's sacred geometry.
The hexagon, because the honeycomb is literally a hexagon. When what they do, they throw up the pollen into the thing, and then they use their vibration to create it.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Actually a product in the Crown Corporation. It says copyright, Crown copyright at the bottom of your birth certificate. It's a copyright certificate. Now they own you. They own us. They own us. Imagine that. Imagine a living being giving birth to another living being, and then that living being signing a document, giving away, because the word register means to give up the rights of. That's what the word register means.
If you had children, would you not sign a birth certificate?
Absolutely not. Why would I give my children, my living, breathing, conscious, spiritual, intelligent being that I've co-created with my partner, why would I then give it to a Crown Corporation government? It doesn't make any sense to me. The government have insidiously invited themselves into every aspect of our life, and that's why it seems like we're in a spider web, we can't get out of it. Oh, if I give up my legal identity, then I can't achieve anything. Well, guess what? Totalitarian tiptoe has been creeping in since 1667, since the birth certificate.
The art of washing dishes is that you only have to wash one at a time. If you're doing it day after day, you have in your mind's eye an enormous stack of filthy dishes which you have washed up in years past, and an enormous stack of filthy dishes which you will wash up in years future. But if you bring in your mind to the state of reality, which is, as I've pointed out to you, only now. This is where we are. There is only now. You only have to wash one dish. It's the only dish you'll ever have to wash, this one. You ignore all the rest, because in reality, there is no past and there is no future. There is just now. So you wash this one. And instead of thinking, have I got it really clean, as you turn the cleaning movement into a dance. And you dig that. And you swing that plate around, and you let the rinsing water go over it. And you put it off in the rack. Crazy. See? Take the next one. You get this rhythm going. See? And you're not under compulsion.
The man slapped the lion's paw and scolded it for damaging the car mat. The lion wanted to resist, but was afraid of the man's sandal, as it had been disciplined by it since it was young. Biting the man's hand resulted in a sandal beating, and making noise to interrupt the man would also get the sandal treatment. When a group of lions were fighting, they became alert as the man approached. As soon as he took off his sandal, the lions scattered in fear. Any misbehaving lion would be disciplined with the sandal. The lions were very respectful of the man, especially when he held the sandal. This respect wasn't only due to his physical threats, This was a dilapidated zoo, and the man was its director. Many of the animals lacked the ability to survive in the wild, and he couldn't bear to let them die out there. Most of his salary went to supporting the zoo. He had personally raised most of the animals. He cared for them like a father. The man with the sandal was a strict father, but it was also a sign of his love.
And I was actually thinking about this today. Can you imagine what yesterday would have been like if you couldn't post whatever you wanted on social media? Like, look at this. Secret Service rushes Trump off after popping noises heard at Pennsylvania rally. Trump escorted away after loud noises at PA rally with a picture of him with blood on his face. Trump whisked off stage in Pennsylvania after loud noises rang through the crowd. Ex-U.S. president walked off stage. He walked off Trump removed from stage after loud noises startles former president. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. This one is crazy. Forbes put this out an hour ago. Will surviving gunfire be Trump's next appeal to black voters? No. Where's the link? No, I don't believe it. The article has been deleted. It was so bad that Forbes got rid of it. They took it down. That's so fucked. Archive it? If somebody can give me a link. Got it. Okay. Oh my god. The release of his criminal mugshot deeply resonated with black voters. Hopefully being shot doesn't have to be a similarly problematic strategy to link Trump with an experience far too many black people have. I mean, guys, hey, I'm just reading it, okay? I'm just reading it. Don't get mad at me. The photograph of what's been known as the Black Power salute. Hopefully Trump doesn't claim that he raised his fist was an homage to two black... Oh my god, bro, like... I want to let you guys know this article was so stupid that Forbes deleted it. Very rarely does it go that far. Yeah, Forbes is like, guys, this is... Read it. Does that sound good?
So I made a video about this a couple of days ago and it went viral. We need to talk about it. So in 2008, LeBron James was the first African-American male to grace the covers of Vogue. When that issue came out, though, people recognized that it looked exactly like a propaganda campaign from World War I. Here you can see them side by side. Everything I'm about to say is said with love. There's so many comments in that video saying like, y'all are just reaching, everybody wants to be a victim. Here's what you need to understand. If you study history extensively, all of these times where we've had race wars, what it is you have the groups of the elites, the haves, versus the have-nots. Now, the haves use a lot of propaganda to get the have-nots to fight against each other. The reason why people use propaganda campaigns, especially when it comes to warfare, class warfare, whatever you want to say, it is because you need to dehumanize the other side. Because once you dehumanize them, you see them as animals and you're willing to do things to protect yourself. There's a really interesting podcast called Caliphate where it's all about how ISIS would bring in these people and essentially condition them by degrees to turn them into these terrorists. Because human beings can be conditioned to think certain ways. In fact, the vast majority of your thoughts and opinions aren't actually from you. You have been socially conditioned to think a certain way because you get positive reinforcement. People that you want to belong with or groups that you want to belong to believe certain things, so you adopt those beliefs so that you can be a part of those groups. We are pack animals. People want to be together. We want to belong. Now, the haves use that against the have-nots to do the bidding of the haves. People in the video have said, I'm racist for comparing LeBron to an ape. People are saying, comparing LeBron to an ape, like, what does that have to do? The ape is supposed to represent Germany. Why would they call LeBron a German? Think deeper. Now, I fully understand that they could have been saying, like, LeBron's a beast on the court. And maybe it's just meant as a juxtaposition against this World War I propaganda. But even if they meant to put this in a positive light, it still is just incredibly ignorant to compare this to that. By the way, the photographer who was in charge of that photo shoot is notorious for painting African Americans in a bad light, literally. But no, your first reaction is to be like, you're racist or you're just reaching without doing any research. By having an African American male with a white woman, one's being aggressive and the other's being, whatever, they're making it about race. I've also had a ton of comments talking about, oh, you just have a white savior complex. Let's dive into that. So when BLM was happening, right, you had a lot of people talking about Black Lives Matter and then a lot of people talking about All Lives Matter. People saying we're experiencing racism. Other people saying it's racist to say only one life matters. The haves in that situation, the elites, made it so perfectly because on this side, they're whispering in your ear saying like, oh, they think you're racist. They think you're bad. They're blaming it on you. So you would fight against those people saying that they're oppressed. The haves were also whispering to this side saying, you're experiencing racism. All of these guys are racist. They're the issue. So all of the have-nots are continually fighting and arguing with each other, and nobody is looking at the top where the decisions come from. This is where the oppression comes from. But if the have-nots are way too busy looking at each other, fighting with each other, nobody's paying attention to that little group of haves that is controlling everything. If you don't think there's systemic racism in America, you need to do more research on the topic because it is disgusting. But the thing is, it's not about race. America hates poor people. There is a war on poor people. And because of the systemic oppression in this country, which groups suffer the most financially? It has always been the haves versus the have-nots. If you research slavery in America, there were thousands of African Americans that had slaves. So it wasn't whites versus blacks. If you look at the very percentage of the people that own slaves, it's not a white versus black issue. It is haves versus have-nots. Greed is the cancer that is killing humanity. Greed is the cancer that leads the haves to feed propaganda to people who are not educated or willing to educate themselves, and so they feed into that propaganda. They believe what's being told to them. The genocide of the native peoples of America, do you know how many tribes sold other tribes out to the government? Do you know how many American settlers were on the sides of the tribes saying that this genocide is terrible? This was not American people versus indigenous populations. This was elitists and the haves against the have-nots. All I am trying to say with this, in every single situation, everything you're being told from the news, from the groups that you like, from the people at the top, look at that information and think, does this make me want to fight with my neighbor? Because if it does, it is propaganda to keep you distracted. There is a little group pulling all of the strings, all of the pain, all of the suffering. Everything comes from that group at the top. And I'll finish with this. Defining people by the color of the skin is so dumb. It is a evolutionary thing that came from how close do you live to the equator? How much sun are you getting? How much melanin needs to be in your skin? We are all human beings. Race is not a thing. In the same way that borders are imaginary, empires come and they go. You are not an American. You are not a European. You are not an African. That doesn't exist. We named these things. We created these borders. It's not real. We are all human beings. This is one human race. And there is a very small group of people that is constantly feeding propaganda to make sure that everybody is too busy fighting with each other to fix the world that we live in.
Hip-hop changing from positive to negative was not a consequence of history. It was not a circumstance of history. It was nothing that just happened on its own. It had nothing to do with the changing of the times. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with the fact that there are people in this particular society who wants to see us exactly where we are. And we cannot elude that, let that point elude us. These are the facts. How do we know? 1967, Kerner Commission report on urban disorder. When black people said, yo, we're tired of this system. You know what I mean? This system is oppressing us. So we rebelled against the system. We burned things. We said, yo, we had enough. He did his little report on what caused these riots. He said, what caused these riots? He said it was young children who started these riots, and what was motivating them was a high self-esteem and an enhanced racial pride. He said The majority of the rioters were high school dropouts, but they had a higher political orientation than their peers who did not drop out. And they saw the system as their enemy, so they attacked it in the right circumstance. So, fast forward to 1992. Same thing. #1 record on the radio, we had Fight the Power. Fight the Power is on the radio. Rodney King gets beaten before the world. The black youth rebelled against the system. Again, they did it again. And why? What primed them? Positive hip hop. Primed them. Fight the Power. X-Clan. Brand Nubian. You had these groups out here who were pushing, who were politically orienting black kids in the right direction, giving them the proper prompters that they needed so that they can respond properly to oppression. All right? In 1967, when the riots happened, he saw that the self-esteem and the racial pride was fueling this. So he said, how do I bring that down so that they will not riot? And what he did, he flooded the airways with black exploitation movies. Nigga Charlie and the Return of Nigga Charlie. These were movies. Hip-hop didn't start calling people niggas. We had Shav. We had Coffee. Black girl turned prostitute to do whatever. You know what I mean? But these black exploitation movies brought down the self-esteem and the racial pride so that the kids will not rebel against this system of oppression. 92, the racial pride was back in effect. We had black kids going to Dr. Ben Yuckinen lectures. We were spending our money to go see Farrakhan speak as opposed to going to a strip club. This is where we were. The most coveted article of clothing was a historically black college or university sweater. We were motivating children towards positive attitudes and lifestyles. And when Rodney King got the beating, heads responded properly. Fast forward to our day. Sean Bell is shot 50 times in the street in New York by police officers. #1 song on the radio, Like a Lollipop. Nobody do nothing. Nobody respond to nothing. Trust me. Trust me. Just like the brother, I believe it was JT, the bigger figure, who said that the label executives came to him and said, yo, brother, we need you talking about guns and whores. Right. You know what I mean? That's right. That happens. I've been in those meetings with management and heads asking me, is what you're saying really what you believe so that we'll know how to market you properly? You know what I mean? This happens. Young Buck on his album, he has a song on his album that talks about police terrorism. The label said absolutely not. Jimmy Iovine said absolutely not. You cannot put that record on the album because it might create an atmosphere that might put police officers' lives in danger. Right. So they took the record off, but they let him keep the other 14 songs on the album that talked about killing black youth. So this is what we're doing. We're not dealing with a circumstance or consequence of history. You know what I mean? The environment that we're embedded in puts us in a situation where we feel we have to maneuver and play the game and water our message down. You know what I mean? But no, what happened was they intentionally shifted the paradigm to get us exactly where we are right now. Right now, we're feeding the prison industrial complex right now. Our kids are going to prison because they're promoting these records. They're promoting these records daily that send us to jail. You know what I mean? It's cool to go to jail. You know what I mean? They glorify these things. And it's not the black youth. We're in a position where we get, like the brother said, the choice. You know, he said, yo, I chose the positive. So I didn't do it. But every youth is not going to take that route. I know. I come from the projects. Grew up in the projects all my life. You know what I mean? And we're not turning down $500,000 to say nigga. We're not going to do it because we won't turn down $200 to take a package of crack from one corner to the next. You know what I mean? We live in a state of poverty and want of all things. So it's hard for us to make that. Our judgment is clouded. And they knew that the judgment would be even more clouded if they took groups like X-Clan off the radio. This is just what it is. And until we start to deal with the environment that's shaping the behavior, we'll never get to the next level. We have to confront that. Thanks.
And there was a witness on the stand. He was lying. And I nudged my attorney and I said, now you cross-examine him on that point. Remember, I told you about that, and that guy's lying. And my attorney, he nudged me a little bit and he smiled, patted me on my hand, and he said, I've got everything under control, George. And he excused that fellow and he walked right out of the courtroom. And then another witness came in, same story, and then a third witness. And pretty soon I couldn't contain myself anymore. And he was about to excuse this third witness. And I said, well, I object, Your Honor. I want to cross-examine this fellow. And it was Judge Willis. And Willis just come unhinged. He practically lunged across the bench as he pointed his finger and he said, Mr. Gordon, you're out of order. One more outburst like this, and I'll hold you in contempt. Mr. Bickle is your attorney. Mr. Bickle will speak for you. Now, I hadn't been talked to like that since I was 5 years old, and my daddy told me to get my elbows off the table. You know, when you hire a guy and you're paying him money, you kind of think that it's an employer-employee relationship. I'm the boss, and you work for me. Until you get into court and you find out it's a guardian-ward relationship and your attorney is the boss and your award of your attorney, out of your own mouth you have said that I'm a legal incompetent. And now you have no rights. And oftentimes people complain to me, they say, well, my goodness, I don't seem to have any rights. And that's exactly correct. The reason that you don't have any rights is because you've contracted those rights away. Now that's what's happened to us. We went down and signed a Social Security application, and we declared ourselves to be spendthrifts, incompetent to manage our own estate, admitting that from time to time we become unemployed and need workman's compensation, unemployment insurance, aid to families with dependent children, and 105 other benefits that our government gives to us by virtue of the Social Security account. And I'm not here to criticize Social Security, I'm just here to point out that when you sign that contract, you enter into a relation with your government that divorces you from the Bill of Rights. And that's what makes you a taxpayer. So if you've wondered why or what power it is that government has over you that they compel you to pay this income tax, it's your Social Security card. Our hypothetical circumstance over here, and you agree to work for General Motors for $10 an hour. And General Motors says, well, if you'll work 40 hours a week at $10 an hour, we'll pay you $400 a week. And so you signed some papers. There was a W-4 form there. Do you remember that one? That's kind of an important contract there because it authorizes General Motors to make some deductions. You work a week. At the end of the week, did you get paid $400? And the answer was no, you didn't. Because a dollar is a round coin. You know, it's one of those Morgan silver dollars that has 371.25 grains of silver. You didn't get one of those. You contracted for 400 of those, but at the end of the week you didn't get those. The company gave you a piece of paper. It was about 3 by 6 inches by 10,000ths of an inch thick, called a check. And it had some funny writings and numerals inscribed on it, and it says pay to the order of, and the net balance was $310. Now, at that moment in time, when you got that very first check, we had a fraud on the contract. You didn't get your round Morgan silver dollars, you got a piece of paper. You had a right to sue, but you didn't sue. And when you failed to sue at the end of the first week for the damage that was obviously inflicted upon you, breach of contract, you waived your right forever to sue in the future. Because after all, it's true, I lied to you when I hired you and told you I was going to pay you $400 a week and I only gave you $310, but then you took the $310, you cashed the check, which was the prima facie evidence that you agreed with the new terms of the contract, which is called a constructive fraud. Now that you've agreed with the constructive fraud and ratified the terms of the contract, you're locked in, and your rights to sue are now terminated. But in 1900, we didn't have an income tax. We didn't have an income tax until we got paper money, and we didn't get paper money from a private bank until 1913. Remember, it was December the 24th, 1913, that fateful day, when we created the Federal Reserve Act. And when we created the Federal Reserve Charter, we created the Income Tax Act at the same time. If you're going to put this paper into circulation, you've got to have a way to get it out. Oh, no, they're not taxing your wages. And they're not taxing your labor. That's against the law. Because wages are property and so is your labor. And you can't tax property. Property has never been assessed or taxed in the United States. Well, then what was this $90 tax on? The $90 tax is the excise tax that is levied by the United States government for the privilege of conducting trade, commerce, business, and industry under the Commerce Clause at Article 1, Section 8 in interstate commerce. Tax was on the check that you received, not the labor. Because you voluntarily gave your labor to the company and it's gone forever. Remember, you're going to die someday, and you can never get that 40 hours back. At the end of the week, they gave you 310, deducted the 90, which was the Federal Reserve Bank's commission for giving you the $310 that you needed to go out to Kmart to buy shoes so that you could discharge your obligations in equity rather than pay your debts at law. What if the IRS man said, well, how much was the gold worth? Well, the gold was worth 1 camera. Well, how much was the camera worth? It was worth 1 ounce of gold. How many dollars was the camera worth? It wasn't worth any dollars. We contracted in gold for cameras and cameras for gold. There was no dollar value because the income tax is always denominated in dollars. And dollars is a copyrighted trademark of the Federal Reserve.
Coca-Cola, what evil things have you done? It's my turn, but I've done a lot of horrible things. Well, you've got to say what you've done. For a start, in India, we used a lot of water to make our drinks, so like millions of people didn't have water to drink. Also, we dumped like toxic materials into the water, so even the people who were trying to drink will drink like toxic water. Oh, that's evil. Yeah, we even sold that toxic material to farmers and pretended that we sold them good fertilizers. You even sold it? Oh yeah, we even paid scientists to tell people that our drinks is not the reason that the people are getting fat. You're even lying about this? Like, everyone knows that. Yeah, we don't want to tell people how harmful our stuff is. Also, during World War II, we kept doing business in Nazi Germany. We even made Fanta for them. No way. Oh yeah, we have no limits. Also in our factories in Colombia, people tried to have a union, but we either scared them or we got them killed. I did not know you're that horrible.
Hey, if you're still here, please do me a favor and click the like and subscribe button so this video gets recommended to other people. Thanks.
You ever heard about the court case that took place, Flat Earth versus Globe Earth, in 2019? There were two fellas that went to court for a civil case for some money. It was about like $10,000. This is the docket ticket for the court case. And it was Globe Earth versus Flat Earth. And whoever won the case would win the money. Well, after the case, which wasn't very long, both of the gentlemen showed all of their evidence. And who do you think won the court case? Who would you think won? You would imagine Globe wins, right? Because science tells us we live on a globe, and everyone tells us we live on a globe. I mean, that's what we were taught. So wouldn't Globe win in court? That's what I would think, but that's not what happened at all. Actually, Globe lost, and Flat Earth won because the judge said there was zero evidence to prove that the globe was a thing, and the Flat Earth actually won the case. Now, the Globe guy got very mad, and this is a true story. So the Globe guy got pissed off about it, and he went back to court, and they tried this case again. You'll never guess what happened. Oh, maybe you will. Globe lost again for the second time. So my question is, if you can take this to court, and court can tell you that Globe is BS and Flat Earth wins, then how are we not putting 2 and 2 together here? Because you can put people away for murder for life in court. Doesn't make any sense, does it? I don't think it makes any sense. What I do think makes sense, though, is that there are about 1,000 and more proofs that the Earth is not a spinning ball of water. And you don't even have to just use your common sense. I mean, you can actually look up the proofs because there are a lot of them, but it's pretty much common sense to me that you can't put water on a ball. Here's our ball. Nice little apple, right? Can you put water on this? I don't think so. How does water stick to a ball? It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. How does that work? So the Earth is within the Earth's atmosphere, and so is the ball. So how does that work? I know how. It's because we don't live on a spinning ball. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And if you agree, you know what to do, because we've been living in lies, my friends, and now it's time to learn the truth and understand the truth. And the truth is that we live on God's earth, and God's earth isn't a spinning ball of water, I can tell you that much. But again, this is for your entertainment.
How many of you have seen this before? You know, like when you go to your doctor's office and they say, just sign here.
Do any of you stop and say, what am I signing for? I had done that in the past, and usually, oh, you're just giving a doctor consent to see you. And of course, I would trust them, right? But not anymore, because I don't use this system. I would have to be on my deathbed and wanted to be saved. But anyway, the point is, have them print it out, read it. This is what happened to my girlfriend a month ago. She finally decided, you know what? I'm not signing that electrical thing anymore. I want to know what it says, because it's a contract. You're putting your signature down, and the fact that they need your signature means they need you to consent. It took them a while to print this out because it was like 6 pages, and I guess nobody had ever asked them to print it before, so they didn't know how to use the system to do that. But once they got it printed out and she sat and read through it, you know what was at the end of it? You consent for your doctor to give you. So know what you're signing. And this is not legal advice, but when you're going through a contract, you know, you can't put a line through things. You can draw a line right through it and say, well, I agree to all this, but I don't agree to that. Put a line through it and sign it if you have to. Now, at the end of her appointment, she didn't sign it. She told them that, I don't consent to that. And, of course, they still want your money. They still want to collect the insurance payment, so they saw her anyway. No is the most underused word in our vocabulary. Now, I remember when I used to be a people pleaser, and it wasn't until I had read the book Boundaries. We need boundaries, people. And I started practicing saying no. So if you're someone who has a problem saying no, just start out small. A girlfriend called me up, and she invited me to one of those tea light parties, you know, when that was all the fad. And I didn't really want to go. And so I wasn't being genuine if I were to tell her, yeah, I'll come to your party. So I said, no. Now, mind you, I'd never said no to her before, and so she was taken back in shock, and I think her feelings were hurt, but your feelings aren't my responsibility. I needed to set a boundary and say no. So if you're somebody who has trouble saying no, just start practicing with little things. Be genuine to yourself. If you don't want to go somewhere, don't go there. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. Learn to exercise the power of no, and here's a great place to start. Stop consenting to things when you don't know what you're consenting to.
What are some symptoms of complex trauma that you can see in people?
So very common ones is that they don't know who they are because they've had to wear masks all their life, and they become people pleasers. Most have anger issues. Most have authority issues because all the authorities of their life have not been healthy. A lot have lying issues. They lie when it was just as easy to tell the truth, but lying is what they had to do to kind of stay safe because truth got them in trouble. There's a fear of failure, a fear even of success because it's like everything's going too good. Something bad's going to happen. So now I better sabotage it.
Wow.
It's a fear-driven thing, the fear of rejection. There's a desire for intimacy, but a fear of intimacy, because then you're going to get to know me. Deep fear of abandonment, that anybody that gets to know me leaves me. All of that becomes problematic in relationship stuff, and then trust issues.
Anybody can go back to the 1900s and look at all the mental asylums. And this is interesting. These buildings are absolutely massive and they have like thousands of rooms. So then you start to wonder, why would someone build a mental asylum that large? Imagine the resources it would take. And especially because around the 1900s, you see people building little houses that are like wooden shacks. They're all like little wooden shacks all over because they're trying to build something. Then you have these huge mental asylums where they were locking up people who went against the narrative. That's what those were used for. Anybody who said they were hearing voices because of the rollout of the radio, or going against any of these that they were trying to put into everybody's arm at that time, or trying to go against paying taxes, they threw them in the mental asylum and they locked them up. And they got rid of a lot of the population at that time, or a portion of that population, who went against the grain. So people should look into the 1900 mental asylums and that whole thing and start to see that the buildings and the size and the structure, and then they demolished all of them. Actually, there was one in Chicago that I went to one time. I remember I had to deliver a pizza back in the day, and it was a mental asylum. And they demoed it in Chicago, and I wonder why. Gotta get rid of the history.
If you worked a little harder, then you'd have a lot more. So the blame and the shame's on you for being so damn poor. It ain't the price gouging, and it ain't the inflation. It ain't everyone above you trying to make a buck off you and screwing the whole congregation. I had that reduced lunch, I had the benefit card. Never occurred to me to blame my family on life being so damn hard. I should have paid attention, like when I was in school. I could figure up the tax. I would know a lot of facts. I missed the class where they taught the rules. I was memorizing capitals. I was in the spelling bee. I must have skipped the part where they taught the art of private equity. I was selling chocolate bars. I had a disorder. I was cutting up a frog, got lost in the fog, learning how to play recorder. If you only worked a little harder. Wave your dumb flag, whatever it means. But you should ask yourself, when it comes to health, are the poor really all that free? If you only worked a little harder, then you'd have a lot more. So the blame and the shame's on you.
You let a white man call you a nigga?
You goddamn right, because it's a compliment. See, this what y'all fail to realize. Uneducated black folk. When the white boy got mad at you, he said, boy. Come here, boy. The only time you ever called nigga is when you stood up and went against him. Only the strong was called nigga. So when you hear a white man call you a nigga, say, man, I can't ever be that strong. Those are the greatest people who ever lived on earth, never done nothing wrong to nobody. Why would you be ashamed to be called nigga?
Some people have said we need to take the N-word out, right? That we are kings and queens.
Black folk can tell us about we was kings and queens. Where is that behavior today?
No, I get what you're saying.
So let me finish. I listen to you. Okay. So if it's 100 million people in Africa, let's just say it was 10,000 kings and queens. What was them other motherfuckers? So you want me to believe every black motherfucker I see, hey, what's up, king? No. We misidentifying and we misrepresenting what a king and queen is.
But can I be a king of my own castle too?
Well.
Does it always have to be?
But a king take care of people. Where are you taking care of people?
Hold on a second.
No.
Hold on, but I'm just asking you, why can't it just be in my house?
How can you be a king if you got a baby by all these different women and so many people can have access to you sexually? How can you call yourself a king, brother? How can you call yourself a queen when every man in the world get to see your body parts? We don't know what Queen Elizabeth's body looked like. The woman didn't speak. So how is all these loudmouth black motherfuckers claiming kings and queens of royalty, but their actions and their behaviors shows the actions of peasants?
We've got a new kind of electricity here. This is a helicopter light.
Okay.
It's 12 volt, 800 watts.
Mm-hmm.
Now we couldn't run it off the battery. But we run it off of this.
Yep.
And look at the weight compared. Now, is there any knowledge that you have of any battery in the world that can run this light and weigh only a couple pounds? And remember, most of it's the case and stuff too. There is no such battery. If there was, my friend, you'd be manufacturing them, selling them to Tesla, and making a lot of money. These plates are not activated because they're not plugged in. You see, this system right here is a frequency generator.
Okay.
I generate 5 different frequencies. This is the code right here, which I keep covered up. Okay, I can scramble the code. I have different ways of keeping my security here.
Sure.
Okay, but now when I'm not sending any signal, now that's a solid gold 24 karat wire. So it's perfect. There's no signal going to the plates.
All right.
So we can go directly back here. Now what do you got? Nothing. Okay, now let's start sending those 5 frequencies to the board. They alternate at different time cycles. As I activate the plates, we free the electrons.
We're starting to get some voltage.
Right.
Okay.
Explaining this the easiest way for a person that don't have knowledge, of course, but people without knowledge, I say it's like AC DC. DC, you have to have real heavy wire. AC, you can have real small wires. Well, this here it acts like DC and it acts like AC. It's not either one. So now you see but look at it. It's fluctuating from low 16s to the high 18s. It'll go up to 18 eventually. It goes 16, 18. Okay. Same. It hasn't lost a single bit because it's not using it up. It's completely replicating itself constantly. See, now we can let it run for hours, and it's still going to be the same. It's not going to change.
Okay, so then if it doesn't change, and if you were to still use this light, and the light doesn't overheat, because...
Well, feel it. It's
okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's warm, but not hot.
No, yeah,
but now if we put this on the car and let the engine sit there and run for an hour, that thing, you can see smoke coming off of it. That's how hot it gets.
Okay.
So it gets really hot. So that's the difference. We've got a new kind of electricity here.
Okay.
The only way you can look at this is close your eyelids. Close your eyelids and then look directly into it, and you'll see. You'll see how bright it is.
Okay. I mean, I know I would really like to be able to see, I mean, if we had a current sense resistor, we even got that, you know, to be able to see what kind of AC versus DC components and stuff we do have.
Here's the thing.
As we get into the next step.
You know,
right?
if somebody's got a little bit of knowledge about oscilloscopes, if I put this on the oscilloscopes, you're going to have a pretty good idea what we're doing.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's going to show up by the wave. Okay? I've got...
Is it okay then?
Yeah,
or
sure.
No? Yeah?
Just be careful. Don't shock yourself.
I know. Okay.
Because this shock is not like electrical shock in the wall. It really hurts.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at 15 and a half. It looks very stable, you know, running it. Okay. And can I switch to AC just to see if there is a detectable AC?
Let's switch it to AC and see.
Okay.
Try it.
Yeah, give it a try. And very low, 136 millivolts. So
that's
really showing.
And it's not accurate.
Yeah.
It's kind of electricity.
Sure.
This is just.
It is really hot to the touch. I mean, we are generating power, and you know, it's continuing to warm up. It's.
It'll still get about a little hotter than that, you know, but when it's on that helicopter, you can cook an egg on it.
Well, and also the helicopter's at 28 volts too.
Yeah, they're putting out 28 volts.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is a difference there between the 15 and the 28.
And remember, this is a 24 volt bulb.
Right.
It's not 12, and we're putting out 18 maybe.
Yeah, 15 and a half.
Yeah.
There's a story of a monk who was approached by a samurai. And the monk was very, very short, and the samurai was huge. And the samurai was very arrogant, and he said, "Monk, teach me about heaven and hell." Stood belligerently in front of the monk. And the monk looked up at this huge being and said, "Teach you? You've got a rusty blade? Your clothes smell? You think you're a warrior? Teach you? Disgust me." And nobody talks to a samurai like that. And the samurai was so ferociously upset, his neck was all red with blood, he pulled out his sword and went to cut off the head of the monk. And just as he was about to do it, the monk said, "That's hell." And the samurai, with sword at mid-level, realized that this man had just practically offered his life to teach him the thing he had asked to have taught. And he was so profoundly grateful, he bowed to the monk, and the monk said, "And that's heaven." And it's extraordinary how reactive we are. How reactive we are. And how much we live in the hells created by our reactivity. Not by the things themselves. Not by the things themselves, but how your mind works with it.
Neil Armstrong said he personally picked up a particular rock, put it in his pocket, and saved it for the Prime Minister of the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Who he gave to, right? and they put it in a hermetically sealed box.
Yeah.
The curator saw my film, says, "Oh, I wonder about that." He, in the middle of the night, they expected no one would open it up. He opens it up, puts the rock under a microscope, and it's petrified wood, kind of this eerie, out-of-the-world looking.
That's a fact.
So unless there are trees growing on Earth, on the moon, then it's a fake. In fact, there's a story, it says moon rock proves to be fake, that Neil Armstrong picked up and personally delivered. But no reporter asks, so if the moon rocks are fake, what about the moon missions? 6 weeks before they allegedly go into the moon for the very first time, somehow with that deadline, von Braun, former Nazi, takes a leisurely vacation in Antarctica.
Yeah, that's a fun
where
one.
he picks up, dozens of pounds of lunar meteorites. I wonder what they use those for.
China's cure for diabetes is a national threat to the U.S. Yes, China may have cured diabetes, but at what cost? Won't somebody think of the pharmaceutical companies? Just like China's policy to create more wind-based energy. It succeeded, but at what cost? Won't somebody think of the oil companies? And China is becoming the world's leader in AI. But at what cost? Won't somebody think of the Western tech companies who are falling behind? Won't you feel bad for the Silicon Valley CEOs? And sure, China has connected every major city in the eastern part of the country with high-speed rail, facilitating more trade between all of these different regions. But at what cost? Won't anybody think of the car companies? I don't know. Won't anybody think of Elon Musk and his plan to build tunnels connecting everything that never came to fruition? The Hyperloop, that's what it was called. Won't anybody think of the Hyperloop? And China's Belt and Road Initiative may have contributed to 75% of global poverty reduction over the last 10 years. But at what cost? You can't just go around inventing things that might put the insulin industry out of business. If we start curing people of diabetes, how are they going to profit off of it? We can't do anything in capitalist society unless it leads to more profit.
Thanks to the latest budget cuts, I'm down to using grade F meat.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was some sort of common solution to both our problems?
That would be great.
Jimbo, why don't you assist Lunch Lady Doris in the kitchen?
Bite me, Skinner.
Well, might we?
This sandwich tastes so young and impudent. Seymour, what's with the good grab?
Well, perhaps I ought to let you folks in on a secret. You remember me telling Jimbo Jones that I'd make something of him one day?
Are you saying you killed Jimbo, processed his carcass, and served him for lunch?
Bart, does it strike you as odd that Uter disappeared and suddenly they're serving us this mysterious food called Uterbraten?
Oh, relax, kids. I've got a gut feeling Uter's around here somewhere.
Since so many students have been put on permanent detention, we've merged everyone into a single class.
When I found out that McDonald's have a contract with over 10,000 hospitals across the world,
why not?
I'm trying to figure out, how does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
How does that make sense, bro?
When did you ever go into a hospital to recover from anything and feel like you were better in any way in this sterile environment with these laminate floors, with these walls that look like you're actually about to be processed for a custodial sentence? Where did you ever feel?
That's why I call a hospital a house of hospitality.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, the house of hospitality. I'll make you comfortable until you die. Don't worry. I'll make you comfortable. Electric this,
There's
electric
nothing to
that.
worry about when you're dying, right?
You get what I'm saying?
People who eat hot dogs eat them because they taste so good. But what's in them is not so good. You know, we've learned to accept it, but I don't know if you'll feel so accepting after this. The company Clear Foods recently analyzed 345 hot dog and sausage products from 75 brands and retailers and found, are you hot dog lovers ready for this? Human DNA in 2% of the samples and in 2/3 of the vegetarian samples. Human DNA.
Whoa, Mama, the electric chair. Smell that, Ralph? That's the smell of justice. Smells like hot dogs.
They're making our food out of people.
Next thing they'll be breeding us like cattle for food. You gotta tell them. You gotta tell them.
Promise, Tiger. I promise. I'll tell the exchange.
You tell everybody. Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell them. Silent breed is people!
Relax, honey. You were just having a crazy nightmare. You're back with your family now where there's nothing to be afraid of. Except that fog that turns people inside out. Huh?
Uh-oh, it's seeping in. Stupid cheap weather stripping.
I really got in touch with my inner self today. I'm never using cheap toilet paper again.
I declined my scholarship to law school.
Why?
I look good in suits. And besides, I'm already good at arguing. The system won't handle me.
Alright, that's it for today's session. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please click on the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks again everyone for showing up, and I will see you around.